Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 11. I'm Ike, and of course next to us is...
Larry. How you doing, folks?
Good and Larry's in Florida. I'm in New Mexico. We appreciate you guys tuning back in. If you've made it this far, you're a pretty good person. You're a brave person, and you have a lot of tolerance.
A lot of tolerance. But share, guys, share. If you like the videos, share with others. So it'll help us out quite a bit. So
that's a very important point, sharing. The people who don't share these videos, they don't share anything I do for some reason. Sharing is what makes this channel grow, and what makes this channel grow is going to provide more and more better content. My heart's going to be in it more if more than 3 people watch this. So in the meantime...
3 people, that includes you and I watching it, right?
That's right, right. Not sponsored, Monster, huh? See? Oh, wait a minute, where is it? Right there, look at that. Oh, that's beautiful.
Probably get us in trouble for that.
I've never had this. Oh, who's going to get you in trouble?
That's true.
Strawberry. That's what real men drink. Strawberry Monster. I've never had it before, but I'm just assuming.
So what's new with you, big guy? What's new in your world out there in New Mexico? The land of enchantment, as they say.
Only the good people say that. The bad people say the land of entrapment. Yeah, we just had a state police officer get killed a few days back.
I saw that was an ambush, I understand.
Yep.
Type of thing.
Sad. He actually went to school in the town I was chief in. So, although I didn't know,
really?
But he was a local guy from here. So, one thing they told us when we became cops: if you're a cop, cops will die. And rule number 2 is there's nothing you can do about it. We only react to what the aggression is, and sometimes you just ain't fast enough.
Yeah, and there's a lot. There's good and bad in all professions, and I'm not saying we don't have cops that go bad, but for the most part, the men and women that put the badge on go out to do God's work, to protect others. And I'm really sorry to hear about this. It was an ambush, from what I gather, and I stopped to help somebody out. And,
yeah, guy had a flat tire in his car, and he went up for a welfare check and totally got ambushed.
Yeah. So my hearts and souls go out to the family. Do you have his name? Can we mention his name?
Oh, I knew you'd ask me that. His last name was Harris or something. I don't know. I don't remember.
I will double check here because I know. Young guy.
34, I think.
His name was Justin Hare. Yeah. Justin Hare, young guy, had a fiancée, a couple of kids, and our hearts go out to the family, and thoughts and prayers. It can happen to any of us. My daughter still serves, and she got out of it for about a year and then got back into it because she just knows that's what she's supposed to do. So I worry about her every day. So.
Yep, it's the kind of job that can get you killed, but there's tons of jobs out there that'll get you killed. I often wonder how I survived logging. I should have gotten killed logging more than anything else. That was really dangerous. It used to be the most dangerous profession in the country, as far as per capita deaths.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I hear the folks that do crabbing up in the Alaskan Bering Straits about one, but firefighters, you just. Anybody can get killed, but we're one of the few professions that go to where the danger is. When something happens, we don't run away; we run to it. And,
unless you're the chief of Albuquerque.
Careful.
Or you may be a deputy in Texas somewhere to school. I don't know. Those guys didn't. True, sad but true. You can sugarcoat it, but it's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've known cops that run the other way.
Yeah, we all have. Like I said, cops are from the human race, so you get good and bad with all. But
some are.
At any rate,
I was an alien hybrid.
I've known that about. Yeah, I've known that about you. Actually, you were just one of those where they combined alien and human DNA.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I believe that.
Whatever.
Where
has this conversation gone?
It's gone nowhere. But I do know what I'd like to chat about today.
Hopefully you did your homework, because you made some vague promises on his last episode. Let's see
I
if you've
did.
done your
I
homework.
did. I did. Well, first of all, you got anything new in the paranormal world on your end? Have you,
Yes, I heard
why don't we
March
share that
25th is
first?
a big day of the year of our Lord. March 25th, a book comes out on Amazon, available on Amazon, by a
Oh, really?
famous author that's sitting like right next to me over this side.
Well,
Yeah.
there's no famous author near you right now, but there's somebody who did write a book, yes,
Famous
who
author.
gave it
Check it out
away.
on Amazon.
Yeah, that,
Really, really, people, go to Amazon, check it out, buy it.
yeah. If you want to
He's
learn a little bit about Indian
he's
River
not going to
County,
get
where I'm at,
he's not going to get rich on it. He's not doing it to become rich because he's already a one percenter. But let's just say he's so rich he doesn't pay tax. That's pretty rich. But
eh,
yeah, famous author Larry Lawson. Check it out. Good book. Where's the
yeah.
book? Hold it up.
Hold on, let
Hold
me
it up.
find it. Hold on. Now
Oh God,
oh,
there it is. Conveniently, strategically placed directly behind him.
Haunted Indian River County. It's talks about the history of this part of Florida and some of the legends in the history here. So check it out. It's on Amazon, and I'd appreciate it.
Will there be an audio copy of that available soon?
I don't
Maybe
know.
James Earl Jones can narrate it,
Ooh, how cool would that be?
or Morgan Freeman
Morgan,
yeah,
either one works for
with
me.
that
Yeah,
voice. Yeah,
yeah, but either one would work for me. But some good history in there, and I'm excited about it. The folks in the area here are excited about it because a lot of people don't realize what goes on in your backyard. When you live in a spot, you don't spend a lot of time often learning the history and what made where you live what it is, good or
absolutely.
bad or indifferent.
And
So,
there's a lot of work that goes involved in writing a book. I mean, it's not something you just whip out and
yeah.
it's labor intensive, back and forth, and editing and all that crap. And yeah,
Learned that the hard way, yeah. But it was fun. I enjoyed it, and maybe doing another one here.
about about
Ooh, about it could
what's it come?
involve cops and robbers and ghosts.
Wow, I can't wait. Get busy writing.
Yeah, so I'm kind of thinking about that one maybe getting kicked off very, very shortly. So we will share that with you in the future.
That's sweet. So back to what we were talking about originally.
Yes.
You made some promises about educating us on ley lines. I
You
thought it
know,
was something
it
completely different. Red light district, red line, or ley lines. I mean, I went. No, just kidding.
boom, boom. Um, you say educating you. No, I was actually really wanting to educate myself a little bit too, and maybe sharing it with you folks, because the term ley lines we hear in the paranormal community as this magical thing that it stretches across the earth, and then it does certain things, and it has certain magical properties to it. Truth of the matter is, it's got a much more benign history than that, and it became something else a little bit later. Ley lines, for those folks that aren't familiar with it, is spelled Ley lines. It really came into its really became of interest in the paranormal world into the 70s, and it talks about lines that run all the way through the earth that have magical qualities, and that certain monuments in our history, the pyramids in Giza, mucho Machu Picchu down in Central America, all are connected by straight lines, and people have looked at these lines as if they were laid. These things were built in line with these lines because they have magical powers. And that is often happens with man. They take an event and they make it into their own creation. And I think that's kind of what's happened here. I have some thoughts. I know I'm going to manage to tick off somebody out there who has other beliefs on it.
No, me.
So if you have an issue with how I'm describing this, write us. Get on the computer, send us a note saying, I disagree for these reasons. I've had these experiences, and this is why I think the ley lines do have magical properties, I should say. But
And
the idea,
we may and may not listen to your gripes and bitches. So yeah, that's entirely up to them. But real quick, I know you're in a row here, but
I was, and you ruined it.
to have a successful ley line, you got to have 3 points or more. Otherwise, it's a straight line to everything. You have to be able to triangulate, right? I mean, I can
You
draw a
do,
straight
and
line from my house to your house right now.
yeah.
But
Well,
if there's
I'm going to
something in the
kind of get into
middle,
that.
if there's something
That's
that's in the middle, yeah, just to make
I'm
it clear.
I'm, I'm going to actually get into that in just a second. But what are ley
Jeez.
lines? Where were they created? Um, the guy Alfred Watkins was his name. He was a photographer in England. He was an amateur archaeologist, but more importantly, his family growing up were business people, and they set up a bunch of businesses all in different parts of the country. In particular, let's see if I make sure I get this with the sure. Oh, it was in the southern part of England. I can't even pronounce it here. Hold on here. As you
It
can
is
see,
a,
I have notes.
it is
Um,
English, you know.
it is English, yeah. But anyway, what he did was, as he was involved in the family business, he eventually went out on his own to kind of try. They put up, they built mills, they built mercantile stores, all kinds of things. They were real entrepreneurs. Um, Later in life, he began to scout for the family, and then he began to find some interesting correlations between buildings. But probably one of the more important things he did, and folks don't give him enough credit for, is he created a special photographic exposure meter for those of you out there that are photographers, called the B meter. And it actually became very, very popular for uh, testing light sensitivity for a film exposure. So anybody out there that's a photographer, you may have heard of the B meter. It became pretty standard in a lot of people's equipment. But in 1921, he began to notice something. He began to notice places like Stonehenge and other monuments in England appeared to be connected by a straight line. Now, he didn't look at it all as if it was some sort of magical event. He thought maybe the peoples in the Neolithic era, which is the Neolithic era is just the latter end of the Stone Age, where human beings were beginning to polish their stone weapons and their stone tools. So it was at the very end of the Stone Age. And he felt that the people then created these lines between spots as navigation aids to get from point A to point B. That was what his original theory was, and he developed it in about 1925, 21 rather, and he began finding these lines and connecting them with different places and important locations through England. In 1925, he actually wrote a book, and the book was called. My mind just went blank, and I'm looking it up here, guys. Oh my God, age is a terrible thing. Um,
Hey, Joe's.
yes, I know. You've said that about 5 times so far. This is the first time the audience has heard it, but I'm getting tired of it. Um,
It'll continue.
I'm sure it will. It'll continue until the beatings stop, correct?
Correct.
Da. Hold on here. It's Alfred Watkins. Uh, the book,
Dead air, people.
the
Dead air.
old straight, the yeah, the old straight track. I know it. I just totally forgot I had to look up the old straight track, and it was published in 25, and it created a lot of interest out there. And then folks began to using this theory of ley lines and connecting all, places like Washington D.C. with the pyramids in Egypt or the pyramids in South America. But there was one huge problem, and this is what caused an immediate um, downturn in the study of it. And that was there were things in between. And you mentioned that before. You could draw a straight line from where you're at to New Mexico to where I'm at. But there's one big problem there. It's called the Gulf of Mexico that you'd have to actually draw the line across. And what happened with Watkins' work was people began to look at the ley lines and they found dense forests, they found mountain ranges, all the things that would have inhibited travel. So it kind of put a wet wash on this entire period of, well, wow, the ley lines are something important that ancient people came up with. Um, uh, somewhere along the lines, it began to develop a following that these ley lines were correct, but they had mystical qualities. But there really was no scientific evidence of it. It's just something that people started to talk about, and it lost interest up into the 30s and 40s. Nobody paid a whole lot of attention to it, but it began to gain traction again in the 60s, believe it or not. And what else happened in the 60s? People were using LSD and all kinds of crazy things. So
Free love.
free love and all that great stuff. But in 1961, a guy named Tony Wedd, and he was a former military aviator, and he started to claim that the ley lines that set up, especially, and I want to say it was down in the South America area in particular, set up were runways for ancient aliens. Now, Eric von Daniken, who wrote Chariots of the Gods, also jumped on this and started to look at the ley lines as big landing strips. Now, I'm going to go off topic just a second here because you do go to some of the neoglyphs that you can see from the air from the mountains in South America. They certainly have. I mean, you got to wonder how folks with no ability with a drone up there to watch how they're drawing it, how they created these big things. But this all kind of comes into play. But in 1977, a guy named Paul Devereaux started a thing called the Dragon Project. And the Dragon Project, and I'll explain why he called it that in just a second, was designed to scientifically investigate ley lines and what they meant. Now, dragon lines comes from another term for ley lines because when you go back into history, the indigenous Native Americans called them spirit lines. The Druids used the term mystical lines. Um, in the Far East, Asia, they called them dragon lines. And the Aborigine down in Australia used the word dream lines. And all of these lines were meant to denote areas where energy comes into play. Devereaux started to investigate this and after 10 years failed to come up with any significant evidence that this occurred. So why do the ley line things keep coming into play? Well, it's because a lot of the ancient belief systems had these lines in the earth, and where it comes from is the magnetic and vibrational aspects of the earth, which has been scientifically proven. Earth has magnetic energy, and it also vibrates. I think we've discussed that a couple times in the show. Ancient peoples felt that it's almost like a vein system, for lack of a better word, that goes through our entire planet because the planet is a living being in many belief systems. And the ley lines are like veins that run energy through the earth. I even saw an interesting video while I was researching this about an organization. A young lady was on there doing a quick talk about it, on how you're in some ancient temples, you are not allowed to go barefoot in them because the energy of these ley lines, or whatever term you want to use, can actually create such a disruption in your body that you need a covering on your foot to protect yourself. On the flip side of it, she talks about other areas in the world where you want to walk barefoot, and that's why barefoot is such a natural thing for humans, because it helps us keep our bodies in order. In fact, she even made the claim that, and this is just a claim off the internet. We all know how everything on the internet is true, so keep that in mind. But that the energy from the earth, via this type of theory, can cure any malady in a human being.
I kind of buy into that a little bit.
Okay, well, I kind of thought you would. And when you take that concept of the vibrational and magnetic energy in the earth, now you're beginning to make sense. I mean, you go back to that movie Avatar, where they had to plug into Mother Earth to regenerate. Do you remember? That's a theory that's been around. I don't even want to know.
I
That
think it
was
was my
good
phone.
timing, though. That
Stand
was good
by.
timing, though. But what I'm getting at is mankind and so many different cultures have talked about the energy of Mother Earth and what that means, and how our growth as human beings and our technological advancement has taken us away from understanding what the earth means. And you've even discussed it yourself in a different form, in that going into the woods or a densely wooded area or nature, how you've sometimes have felt just different energy. So I think what I'm getting at here is the concept of ley lines as it was brought forth by Watkins in 25, how it was kind of began to develop. Do you remember John Mitchell,
I do.
astronaut?
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote that book called The View of Atlantis, and it claimed that the presence of Earth energies, and he talked about all kinds of paranormal uh, alien type things. He even discussed that energy coursing through the Earth. So I think what's happened is ley lines became an easy way for folks to describe this energy pulsating through the Earth. So that's kind of where we're at. Now you'll get folks out there that'll talk about my house is on a ley line, therefore it's haunted.
Are there
My
ever
house,
are there any
right?
maps that display or accurately display where these ley lines supposedly are? Because I've
They're
looked
not.
before in the past, and there's some maps
Yeah.
where ley lines are virtually everywhere, and then there's very few. But it seems like
Well, finding a map that you can just look at on the internet, I found to be impossible. Lots of
yeah.
books out there. If you want to buy the books, you can see it. But again, if you look at some of these maps that are out there, you look at how they connect Washington D.C. with L.A. and stuff. Well, people tend to forget about the mountain ranges in between. Now, the concept of these magical lines, these energy lines, dream lines, whatever you want to call them, going through the Earth. Okay, that may be mountains may not be an issue for them. One thing I did see too, I did notice in my research, is there are theories out there that where the ley lines are is where mountain ranges occurred, and other types of uh, natural phenomenon occur. And the theory is that's why they occurred, because the
Hmm.
energy went through there and caused them.
Hmm.
Not volcanic activity, not shifting of the Earth's plate. It was actually this type of energy that's causing it. Not a lot of scientific evidence to prove that, frankly.
There's been a
Um,
lot of a lot of cultures and a lot of mountaineering people, even up to now. Say places like Mount Everest or any high peaks, even like Mount Shasta or Mount Hood or
right?
Wheeler in New Mexico. A lot of them refer to it as where the veil is thinner, where the veil between the supernatural and earthly activities is the thinnest at these high elevations. And if you've ever climbed a high mountain,
It's called
there's def
hypoxia.
there well, yeah, that could be hypoxia. I've had it, but there's definitely something going on. There's been lots of books written on. Not to get off subject, but yes, we're getting off subject just for a second.
So what else is new?
Yeah, there's been books written, and I have it somewhere. I may have lent it to somebody, never got it back. But there's books written by mountaineering people that climbed Everest, and it's called the Third Man Syndrome, where these people have oxygen, they're not hypoxia, and they're not all having the same hallucinations.
Right.
Even the Sherpas had this happen to them, where there's a third person in line when they're climbing. Now, there's only two of them tied together with a rope, but when they look behind them, there's always a third person back there. That's a real common phenomenon with
Really?
climbers. Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, there are sites throughout the world that seem to have are filled with a lot of electromagnetic energy, and they claim this is where a lot of ley lines intersect. Now, there's talk, and this could be where you're talking about. Maybe this is where ley lines on some of these maps may intersect, where you get that heavy amount of energy, maybe even to the point where this another debatable issue in the paranormal field, vortexes may occur,
Hmm.
or pathways to the other side, wormholes to the other side, if, for lack of a better term. Now,
Absolutely.
I am a huge believer, and I'll put this right out there, that frequency, vibration, magnetic energy, vibration, all of those things are what's connecting us to what's going on the other side. I don't pretend to know what that means. Does that mean a wormhole to another dimension? Does that mean passageway to visiting those that have died or are in heaven. I don't know what that means, but I think frequency and vibration and magnetic energy has a lot to do with the phenomenon that we experience in our work. Does
I
that
agree.
mean ley lines are part of it? I don't know.
Just might be a place where there's higher frequencies, higher vibration. What is vibration? Vibration is electricity. It's atoms and molecules. Nucleus is
Yep,
all vibrating
yep.
together, creating energy. And we are energy. And I just to, once again to break off because that's what I'm famous for. Just to backtrack you a little bit on when you mentioned walking barefooted. There's tons of documentaries out there of grounding. They call it grounding. And just in I was interested in it because I'm like, what's all this about? So I'm not a dummy. I got tons of these meters. This is a regular multimeter, and it comes with two probes. If you set it on DC, which it's sitting on DC right now, and I take a probe in each hand and hold up the gauge so you can see it, you can see I have electricity in my body right now.
Oh yeah,
Okay, I am loaded with electricity. My heart runs off
absolutely.
electricity. Now, if I take one of these probes, presumably the black one because it would read into positive, and stuck it in the ground, and I'm on a carpet right now, I can't do it, you would notice that this dial would zero out because my electricity is going into the soil. So right now I'm touching both probes. It's hard to do with this camera. Both probes, and if I let go of one, you notice it stops 0 0. If I stick it in the ground, you would see that I'm grounding out. I'm no longer electric. And you can also set it to ohms, and you can see how electricity flows through your body into the ground, and how certain soils are absorb your electricity differently. You know, some are more conductive than others. There's something to it. There's something definitely
There
to
is.
it.
One thing I am on my tours, I talk about this a lot, is I talk about the use of EMF detectors and whatnot. I talk about us being electric creatures. I mean, if I passed out, I dropped dead on the ground and my heart stopped, what are the paramedics, other than CPR, what are paramedics going to do to get my heart going again? They're going to zap me with electricity. So
Defibrillate
we
you,
are electric
defibrillate you.
beings. Yep. And what are radio waves but a version of electromagnetic waves?
It all boils down to the same thing. And
Exactly. That's my
if
point.
you ever have like a small headache, a light headache, or just feel a little down or tired, just try this. Go outside, take your shoes off, and stand in grass or dirt like you did when you were a kid. 5 minutes and see if it makes a difference. And I'd be willing to bet you there's a 50-50 chance that you'll start feeling better immediately. It's weird. I've done it. My wife has done it. My
That's what I
daughter's
was
done
going to
it.
ask you.
It's really weird
Uh-huh.
because we don't spend grounding anymore. Our shoes are insulated. We wear rubber soles
Yep.
that disconnect us from the soil. We're on boards, on carpet. We're in cars. We don't really ground ourselves anymore.
Now,
Not to get off on the whole grounding thing, but it's very seldom that we
well,
actually ground.
but it's really not off subject, Ike. When you think about it, we're still talking about energy veins running through the earth, being ley lines, dragon lines, stream lines, whatever it is. We're still talking about veins that run through the earth. So I don't think this is really off topic at all. And I would really enjoy, and I put this call out again, and this is one reason why sharing is important, folks. I would love to talk with somebody in the Native American community about their feelings on this because they are so much more in tune to nature than we are, than folks like you and I. That's my opinion. That's just my opinion. But I would
If,
like to talk to somebody, a shaman, that actually.
yeah, you'd have to find someone, a native that's an elder that
Right,
actually,
right.
you know, 'cause not every native's going to know what the heck we're talking about.
No, just like not every, yeah. But you understand where I'm coming from with this. Electromagnetic energy is connected throughout, and let's figure out how the vibration. It's all connected. How? So that is the one area that I give ley lines, if you will, some credibility. Do they really
Oh, you froze.
connect the? Uh, oh,
Hold on,
I'm
you're
here
freezing
now.
up. What's going on here?
Okay, I can see me, but you're freezing up on my end.
Yeah, you froze up there just for a second.
Okay. Anyway,
All right, probably just a little internet glitch.
I, I have an issue saying that the I don't think there's enough scientific evidence to tell me that these are created by aliens. I don't think there's enough scientific evidence to say that they're runways. I do put a caveat on that, that some of the what do they call them? Petroglyphs, whatever it is you can see from the sky in South America, where it's carved into stone. I got to admit
The
that's
Nazca
weird.
lines in Peru.
Yeah, exactly.
Those
Things
are
like that. Now, let me throw this out too. As I was doing this research, the pyramids in Egypt. I don't think that anybody has ever come up with a logical explanation how people of that era had the engineering ability to construct those huge monoliths. I mean, how? How did they get all those huge blocks into place? How did they get it so perfect? I was reading where maybe these ley lines, which they say connects a lot of these pyramids, maybe that energy was somehow used to aid in the creation of these structures.
something happened. I mean, conventional teaching has often proved wrong throughout the years.
Mm.
Is slave labor, but then when they do the math, the amount of slaves they had to house and feed and just corral around these work sites would have been
Yeah.
amazing. Really not
And if
possible.
they and if they didn't take care of them, which would be an huge economic strain on any society in any era, then they would die off. And they wouldn't have enough. They
Yeah,
wouldn't have enough people to keep it going.
you don't want a bunch of
So
weak, lazy, not lazy, but weak, sick slaves
yeah,
that can't even move,
wait,
small
and
rocks.
if they passed on, who do you replace them with? So there's a lot of
Exactly.
questions there. And the one thing about this field, and I want to encourage this also, is you may not agree. I don't agree with the original concept of what ley lines were. That's my opinion only. But you got to keep an open mind because I also don't know how the pyramids were built. I don't know why certain things occur. So while I have trouble understanding the current description of an issue, I got to keep my mind open saying there's got to be an answer. The building of the pyramids is
And
one of them.
it's people like me, people like you, that are important in the subject because academia, and I'm not pounding on academia because my daughter, she's got 2 degrees in this crap,
Yes, she
and
does.
but the stuff they teach are taught by tenured professors who have written tons of books, and you will never get them to admit that they've been teaching something wrong for the last 20 years or written a book that is bad now or is not correct anymore. And it's been proven constantly that what we were taught 10 years ago is not necessarily the truth anymore. So, it's true for the moment, but there are paradigm shifts that happen, and some of these people have a hard time stepping back because they're making a lot of money at these universities, and they are somebody. It's ego. And I'm not going to step back and say, well, I've been a professor for 30 years. I've made millions of dollars, and what I taught you is wrong.
Yeah,
Go.
that's
It's just
right.
not going to happen. So it's people like
And
us who really don't have no vested interest in the amount of money these people are making and what they're teaching. We're questioning from different angles. It's been going
well,
on. It's so
in
many.
in in addition to that, Ike, I think that hopefully we're helping people open up their minds and understand that there's just not one way to think. Once you get so closed off and say it has to be this way, you limit your ability to evolve and grow.
And
That doesn't.
don't join the
Oh,
cult mentality. Just because somebody is something and tells you this doesn't necessarily become carved in stone. Be open minded enough to think
that's
outside the
the key.
box. You know,
That's the key. Now, I don't think this really comes into play with people's core values. Core values are core values. I'm talking about scientific understanding of what we are, how we are, and where we're going.
yep.
Keep that open mind because and if humans, I will put this out, and I could say this 40 years as a cop, people speak with a forked tongue. And a lot of times they'll speak with what is in their best interest or what they feel is in their best interest, and they will do it in the face of proof. Keep an open mind. Listen, take it all in, and make judgments based upon your evaluation of the evidence presented to you. That's what a jury does. We ask a jury, look at our evidence to prove that this person committed the crime. And we're asking people to keep an open mind and judge the evidence.
Yeah.
If the evidence is wrong, they let them go. If the evidence is right, they put them where they should be, in jail.
That's a good system to some degree, but you working for a district attorney and me working for a district attorney, we know that doesn't always work. Because
Well,
a
humans,
good defense attorney will throw out something like completely off the wall, and then he says, "Oh, wait a minute, strike that, forget about it." Well, it's already out there. You can't unring a bell, and the jury's already heard it, and they're like, there's a
oh,
lot
we,
involved when it comes to that.
we could go down that road, and people's perception and how because in our system here, if you're in another country listening to us, you've got to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. You can't just say, I think he did it because I believe he was here. You got to show he was there.
Yeah.
And if you have a defense attorney puts any doubt at all into the jury's mind, they're supposed to not convict them.
And it's easy
So,
to instill reasonable doubt.
yeah,
It's
sure,
and then just
reasonable doubt.
unsay it. And they do it all the time, especially the less
Oh
than
God,
scrupulous attorneys, which there's lots
yeah,
of.
we could go down that rabbit
Different
hole, and
subject.
we'll never get back to ley lines and stuff. But anyway, um,
I would love to take one of these multimeters and find me a ley line somewhere and do, and check what my voltage is in my body at any given time on the ley line and what it does when I ground. If there's more electricity in the air, if there's, can't think of what I'm thinking right now, but just do some soil samples and stuff on the ley line and see
well,
what's
I
really going
don't
on.
know. I don't know if Devereaux did soil samples, but he did. His investigation was pretty comprehensive as far as energy, and he would find places that would have on the ley lines that would be really jam packed with electrical energy, and some places that just weren't.
Because I do not
So,
believe that ley lines were built by aliens. I think it's a natural occurring something in the earth that the ancient people knew about. Because what is the earth? It's a giant battery. It's got a freaking molten center. It's a big
right?
ass battery. So it's
Okay.
probably something that's naturally occurring that the ancient people, and when I'm talking ancient, I'm talking very, very ancient, somehow figured out and knew what to do with, aka
Well,
moving heavy ass rocks and boulders around.
okay, but do you think that the major centers or events in the world, anything from a mountain range to Stonehenge, do you think, in your opinion, that those places were created or grown or built based upon the ley line?
I think so. Because look at it this way. There's
Okay.
another way I see it is the Earth is negative charged and the atmosphere is positive charged, and just lightning, both
Okay.
molecules are trying to reach up towards each other. That's why all tall trees get struck and antennas get struck. So if you got a giant mountain, let's say you have Mount McKinley in Alaska or any of these big mountains, the negative charges are always going up this mountain, trying to get closer and closer up to the sky to get to
Well,
touch the negative charges because they attract each other. So a top of a mountain peak would be highly energized. And when I climbed Mount Princeton, reading about it, they say you can feel your hair tingling, your hair stand up if you had any hair. I didn't, but if you have any hair, you could feel your hair starting to stand up on the clear sky with no clouds around because
right.
you're so high and there's so much voltage coming through this mountain trying to get up into the sky where it's negatively or positively charged up there. So high mountains, that's why they feel that way, I'm sure. And ley lines could
Yeah.
be something that's underneath the ground that's highly conductive, where a lot of energy gathers and tries to go somewhere because energy is always trying to do something and
Right,
doesn't
right.
hardly ever sit still.
And I agree with you to a point. I don't know that it goes along the route of connecting of places. I don't believe that ley lines, as they were drawn to connect Paris with Washington D.C., with London, with Athens. And I'm just throwing names out there,
That
but
is
I don't
weird.
think I see. I don't. But you brought up a good point at the beginning. You could draw a straight line to my house from your house to my house easily, not a problem. But there's the Gulf of Mexico between us, not to mention the mountains or what else is in
If you're going to
between.
use this line as a road, yeah.
Yes. So
But
therefore,
if
that
if I was going
I
to
mean,
use this line to identify significant places. Let's say my house is the devil's workshop and your house
I've
is
heard that. I've
God's
heard that.
temple. And
Well,
in
I can
between
understand that.
us, yeah, in between us is Scientology Center. And there's a perfect straight line between all three of us. That's no longer a coincidence. Then, that was intelligent design.
Okay.
And when I say intelligent
Okay.
design, somebody smarter who knew something somehow managed to line these three things up perfectly. And I think that's what the ancient ley lines are. Newer ley lines with DC, I don't know. But the ancient ley lines were like the pyramids line up with, let's say,
Okay.
Stonehenge. And then another one. These people didn't talk to each other back then. There was, these were built long before communications between any of them. So there
Agree. And that's
had to be something in the ground, in the soil. Maybe they didn't even realize that they were perfectly lined up. They were just building on a place that was highly energetic, as the other ones did, and the other ones did.
well. There's theory to that effect that folks didn't necessarily look at a map and say, "I'm going to connect my place with Athens, Greece," but that it was just that they were drawn to that spot and built there. There's theory to that respect. The cop in me says, "Nah, no." Now, I don't think that argues with the theory that energy lines or veins are going through the earth. I don't think that disagrees with that. I just have a real problem with folks building stuff saying, okay, here's A, here's B, so now we're going to build on C. I don't see it. I don't. Um,
In the newer age, maybe late 19th century, I could see that kind of happening because, like DC, supposedly was laid out in the shape of a giant pentagram. And if you look at the map, man, it kind of looks like a giant pentagram to me. I mean, there was some intelligent design behind that, and most of these guys were Freemasons, and Freemasons had a lot of symbolism going on and stuff
okay,
like
all
that.
right. But is it the result of man wanting to create it to make it look like it, or is there a spiritual reason for it? If it was done in the 1970s, my first thought, maybe this is just the suspicious nature that I have, is you did it on purpose to create a thought.
In the 70s, I'd agree with that. Or just maybe you've known about this and you want to recreate something similar to it.
Well, crops, oh, and that goes right into the crop circle thing, which is also not exactly like ley lines, but it was talked about aliens using crop circles as navigation aids. And going once again back to South America, where some of the really incredible things that you can only see from the air were done. But crop circles themselves, well, I'm not going to sit here and say definitely all of them are fake. I think it's been pretty well proven that most of them are man-made.
It's an enigma, kind of. I think a lot of them are man made. But the older ones, because like in the 80s when they first started coming out, in the 70s, and this is pre Google and
Right.
pre a lot of the social media stuff, some of these crop circles had some really intricate mathematical solutions on there that the average kid with a board and a rope wouldn't be able to pull off in one night in the field. And why?
Well, there were two guys.
Now maybe I could Google something. Give me something really crazy, some crazy mathematical formula, and with modern computers and stuff, I could probably come up with something that'll blow somebody's mind out there in the field. Like, ooh, only aliens would know that.
Well,
But back then,
back then, now we're good. I'm going to go back into the '60s, and the two names of the two guys escape me, but they are the ones that started doing the crop circles in southern England, and they said they could do 25 to 30 during a growing season. And they're the ones that really brought it to the forefront where people started reporting. And that was way before computers and Google and all that stuff. And these guys were doing it, and they did it kind of a lark. They met in a pub, and they said, this would be cool. Let's give it a try. And they did. And they were a couple of guys that just figured out the mathematics of it and laid these things down. I remember reading one story in there where they showed the picture of the crop circle, and whoever was looking at it chuckled and said, yeah, that's the symbol of a pub in town. So Is it a question of maybe somebody did do it and then other people jumped onto it? I'm open to
Or
that.
or circles were happening, and these guys are non-believers, and they're just going out there like anybody can do this shit. Look, we can do the same thing. So there's real crop circles out there, and then there's the crop circles they provided. If you look at it, crop circles have gotten more intricate as the years have gone by. I mean, they've gone from simple circles with a dot in the center to these like really elaborate, crazy,
Oh,
you know.
I think there's and I'm going to try to see if I can find one on here. Some of the early crop circles were pretty darn intricate. Let's see.
And
See if
why
I can
don't
get the
farmers
picture.
ever catch these guys? I mean, a farmer can't be happy about getting all his wheat smashed.
Oh, hell no. No. Let's see. In fact, see if I can find some pictures here. Lots of books written on it. But
Dead air,
oh, there
folks.
we
Dead
go.
air. March
There.
25th.
No. The two guys I was talking about before, let me see if I can find there. Now, this is from 1990. Let's see if I can get it on here so it's big enough so that y'all can see. There we go. Yeah, this is from 1990.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. It kind of looks like a dinosaur to me.
Yeah. But and you can actually look at that and say, let me get out of the
Got a lot of glare.
yeah, that hell that still doesn't help. Boy, how about that? Um,
There you go. That's good.
okay. Uh, I mean, you can argue that's a landing area. You
Depends
can.
what it says in alien language.
Oh,
You know,
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I don't know why they'd have to have a landing area that describes their landing area if they're crossing freaking the universe.
Well, and that's another argument that I have with the whole thing. Also, is um, there's just too much of it that can be done by man. And you know, if you take the boards and the string and you map it out a certain distance, and you're a mathematician, of which I am not, um, you can still probably mathematically figure out how to do it.
But how do
I
you
just
do
have,
that in one night without getting caught? And you're just parking in a farmer's field. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of wheat fields out here. In fact, we don't have any, but we have cornfields. And I guarantee you, if in the middle of the night you pulled your car up, your pickup truck next to a
right?
field, within an hour, some ranch hand or farmer would pull up and like, "Can I help you?" How
Yeah,
are these people pulling this off?
they were though. These two guys that were doing it, and I'm gonna see if I can't find their names here again. I should have written the names down, but I was just and it talks about crop circles and ley lines in here. Trying to find these two guys' names, but that's exactly what they did. Who? Let's see. Go to this original crop circle creators. You know, if I was really good at this podcast thing, I would have already had this done.
Oh, you're good.
And I,
What if
uh,
they're just, I think I've said this before, and this is delving into the conspiracies, but what if they're just disinformation people? The best way to make fun of it, to disprove something, or just to not just disprove, but to divert attention is by mocking it or making fun of it. You know, the military's done it a bunch of times with the remote viewing, like, oh yeah, it's not real. Before it came out,
oh,
before.
oh, wow! Look at this crop circle. Look at this one. If I can, uh, there. Look at
Yeah, I've
that
seen that
one.
one. That's awesome.
That is pretty awesome. I got to say. Um, they increased in the 70s. Oh, here we go. Doug Bauer in 1991. Two hoaxers, Doug Bauer and David Chorley, took credit for having created many circles throughout England after one of their circles was described by an investigator as impossible for a human to make. And they were doing these things. They started in 78 and they did it all the way up until almost night. Almost up to 1990. And you say, how could you do it and not get caught? These guys did it. They said they did it for 25 to 30 times a growing season, and they never got caught.
It's pretty amazing. Unless they're lying, it's pretty amazing. How far do crop
Uh,
circles go back? You know, when was because I think I've read crop circles happening in the 1800s.
they've talked about, let's see, folklore here.
Dead air, folks. March
No,
25th.
here's
March.
one from 17th century called the Mowing Devil.
Yeah, seen
This
that one.
was okay. This is from the 17th century. Let me see if I can. This dang light here, and I never can.
Right there. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's not a very exciting crop circle.
No, it's not.
They definitely gotten more intricate as time goes on. Just like UFO pictures. Not to get off subject real quick, but real quick, like, look at UFO pictures from the 1930s and 40s when they had the original Foo Fighters, whenever the hell that happened. And
Right.
look at UFO pictures now, or depictions of them, not photos, but depictions, how people describe them.
Yeah.
They've gone from an upside down plate, and then in the 60s and 70s, they became more like the kind they showed on television with windows in them and people looking out the windows. And now,
Okay.
if you look at them, they're shimmery, cigar shaped, tic tac looking things.
And
They're always
why?
changing.
Why? Why are they changing? Why are the descriptions changing?
Maybe the technology has changed. How did our cars look
Ma-
in the 1930s? They
Okay,
don't
but
look anything like my Jeep now.
I'll throw this at you though. Once we became more enamored with television and we went from watching Buck Rogers to, I don't know, Starship Troopers, and the spaceships became more intricate, so did suddenly the pictures. If an alien being had the ability to do a crop circle for navigational purposes back in the 17th century, like the one we just saw, the Devil's Mowing, they called it. Why so simple then and more intricate now? Because they've managed to travel all this way. Wouldn't they still be using more intricate circles? I mean,
From the
they've
get
managed
go.
to,
From
yeah,
the get go, unless they just thought we were a bunch of stupid monkeys down here. And
but they're not doing it for them. They're doing it for themselves and navigational purposes.
maybe if it's a navigational thing, unless they're trying to teach us something, but they're saying you can't teach an ant anything or you can't teach a monkey anything. So let's start out small. Maybe their time is different than ours. Maybe 50 years to them is, it's got to be different if
Well,
they're traveling into the universe because time is only a construct to the Earth and our solar
in
system.
time is something we created.
Yeah.
Let's say no, and I agree with you. And I know I'm kind of poo-pooing some things, but on the flip side of it, I'm trying to look at this logically also. I guess I'm putting logic into something where the logic doesn't even apply just yet. Um,
Well, the thing is, we
I don't
attack
know.
it from all directions, which is what we're supposed to be doing on the show. And,
Yeah.
if you ask me, do I believe personally that some of these things are from something built from something else? I kind of like to think yes. I'd really want to say yes because just go to Google and type in crop circles and look at some of these damn things. And you telling
Very
me that
interesting.
two people did this in one night and nobody's seen anything? Also,
Chorley and
there's,
Bauer did it.
yeah,
Chorley and Bauer did it. They did it for
maybe.
a couple of decades. Well, unless you're going to go down the road that this is part of the disinformation.
But there's also some videos out there, and they have not been debunked yet. And I've seen them on television shows where surveillance cameras have caught light anomalies hovering over wheat fields. And then in the morning, there's a freaking crop circle there. But the
Well,
surveillance camera didn't catch two guys with a board.
and
So,
that description, I'm going to go back to something you talked about, where since this is all sort of attached to the UFO phenomenon. Also, I trust you implicitly. I would never say this in public because your head will get too big, but I
this is
trust you
public.
implicitly. Oh, I better not say it then. But I believe what you experienced with the cow mutilations, without question. I know you. I know your character. I know you. So therefore, I know what happened. So I have to keep an open mind to all of this. And maybe I'm, splitting the baby, as they say. But maybe we've had one or two things that actually happened, and then humans, being humans, decided to capitalize on it and say, "Hey, I'm going to do that too. I'm going to shoot off a rocket." No, I didn't say that.
No more
Uh,
goddamn rockets. No,
um,
you're absolutely right. UFOs. How many fake UFO pictures are out there? People throwing hubcaps in the air back in the 70s, when cameras started getting a little better. And people were throwing hubcaps in the air and calling it a UFO. People are doing all kinds of stupid. And they were doing it, I don't know why people do that. Uh, some of them, it's based on their belief system. They just don't want to comprehend that there might be something else out there because it goes against their beliefs. So, what better way to deal with that than admitting that I might be wrong? It's just I'll fake it. Look, this shit ain't real. I just faked another one right here.
yeah.
Look,
Well, and I just had another thought that came to mind. You talked a little while ago about maybe the technology changed, and that's why the pictures of the UFOs gotten better. I'm going to put a kind of a human angle on this. You ever heard of the B-52 Stratofortress?
No, yeah, of course.
And do you know what year it came into service?
Probably in the 50s.
Yep, in the
I know a guy
50s.
who ejected out of one and was taken prisoner of war in Vietnam. He's the
Oh,
airport manager of Moriarty.
oh,
Yeah,
love to chat with him. But here's my point. What are the B-52s doing today?
they
They're
still use
still
them.
flying. They're
Yeah.
still using them. Why does that mean that our pictures of UFOs are so different now than they were in the 50s? The B-52s aren't. And now I grant you that you also didn't have F-15s and stealth fighters back in the 50s. But I just find it odd that as our technological knowledge has improved, how our imagination has improved, so have the pictures of the UFOs.
Yeah,
I'm just going to put that out there.
kind of. Because some of the newest UFO pictures are still just shiny objects in the sky,
Tic Tac, yep.
or like the Tic Tacs. I mean, you can't really tell what the hell it is. Is it a better picture than they've taken 20 years ago? Yeah, kind of, but still doesn't tell you what it is.
Okay, so getting back to the ley lines part of it, energy lines, whatever we want to call it. Do you think that extraterrestrials, and I have a totally open mind on that. I'm kind of I know I'm sounding like I'm poo pooing, and I'm not, but I'm just trying to put logical answers to this. But do you think that folks, if they're visiting here, are using those energy lines to navigate where to go on Earth, and why they show up in some spots more than others because they're following these roadways?
My thoughts are this, and of course, they're only my thoughts. I don't think they're used to navigate, and I don't think it's a landing portal of any kind. I think it's a fueling station because our planet is nothing but a giant atom smashing freaking nuclear generator in the center, and this energy has to come out somewhere. Like I said earlier, it may come out in the form of ley lines or something similar to it. And I think these may be fueling stations or maybe even portals.
Do you think the term ley lines and how people have connected? I think I've already kind of asked this question. Do you think that ley lines follow the actual magnetic veins of the Earth? Is that what your thought is?
Probably because it's electromagnetic, and I would
Okay.
think so.
Okay. Yeah, that's where I'm lost in this. I think that those veins probably do occur. I actually do not think that while that movie Avatar, I mentioned it before, is fantasy, I think there's some logic to the message it sent about Earth energy.
Like we said before, I totally believe in Earth energy. And is it an
Yeah.
intelligent? The question is it something, is there energy out there in the Earth? Yes, we know that for sure. I just showed that on my meter. Is it intelligent? Is it able to, is it sentient? Can it do things? And like the natives think, yes. That's why they offer gifts. And many
Right.
cultures offer gifts to the Earth. And the natives give tobacco. And we all, in a way, think, well, maybe not as so much, but many cultures offer gifts to the earth energy.
Yep. Yep.
So
Well, they also used to sacrifice people to the
yeah.
energies, to the earth, the god, and of course, some cultures may have called these energies gods or looked at them as gods. So, once
Well,
again,
anything that did something out of the norm, if you're in a tribe
yeah,
and something really spectacular happens, and it wouldn't have to be all that spectacular in modern standards, but back then,
right,
as maybe a solar eclipse or something would probably blow your mind.
which is coming. Yeah, which is coming, I mean, there were cultures that thought that the gods were punishing the earth for things they did wrong. So the god was swallowing up the sun, so the earth would die. So there's no question about that. And who knows? Maybe we're beginning to tap into the real source of how people began to create religion, in a sense, by the energy produced by the earth causing things to happen, causing the entity. being created in their minds. So maybe we're answering some questions here. I'm
Well,
sure questions are already been answered, but
simple things as a solstice or equinox.
uh-huh.
Every winter, December 22nd, when the sun starts heading back north and days start getting longer and it gets warmer, had to be amazing, 20,000 years ago. Because you
Hmm.
probably thought every winter that the sun was never going to come back. We've pissed off the sun, it's heading south, it ain't
Yeah.
coming back, it's only going to get colder, and suddenly it stops and starts coming back. It's time to sacrifice some kids. Like, thank you, thanks for coming back. Here, have my son.
So only you could put it that way. Um, and let's look at all, not just the energy in the earth, but the energy. Look what the moon does to tides. Okay, so I mean, all that energy is all part of it. I just don't think that ley lines as they were created by man are accurate. I guess that's where I'm going to go with this.
I think you're right. Uh,
So,
like I said, until I see a map that tells me where exactly ley lines are,
well,
and I
they've
can
got
go to
them.
them.
Yeah, they've
Because
got the map. You just got to buy them.
like the mining area I go to, I've
Atlas.
always said this a million times before. It feels very special. It feels very energetic. It feels charged.
Well,
Is it a ley line? Is there a ley line there, or is it just because of all the gold and silver and copper and quartz in
that's
the
my
ground
bet.
that's a giant
But
pattern?
is all but is all the quartz and gold and silver that's there the result of a ley line being there? Okay,
Exactly. Why was it
I,
placed there to begin with?
I would, and that is one of the big theories that I saw, and what I was looking at is that's just naturally why these things are occurring, and in some ways I think I've kind of created more questions than I did answers, but I definitely came to a personal conclusion that vibration, energy, electromagnetic energy in this earth is natural. It's here and may be the foundation for a lot of things that we believe and have happened. Do I think that people deliberately built buildings? No, I say deliberately built buildings in line. No, I don't. Is it possible that somehow spiritually folks did it accidentally? I'm open to it, but I don't think it's something we'll ever be able to prove.
My thoughts, just to recap and close this subject off and put it to bed, is
Oh, I'm having
ancient
fun.
ancient construction. I think was deliberate. I think there was something that made these people build things without communicating with other people on the other side of the planet. There was something in the ground, in the soil, or something communicated with them to build these things on these locations. Just like the pyramids, the three pyramids in Giza, are exactly like Orion's belt. Within a degree, they're also facing exactly north and south prior to compasses. So there,
Well,
there was
see,
something going on with the construction of special
I
places back
think
then.
I think that's the more logical answer. I mean, go back. If I watched Curse of Oak Island, and they're talking about a thing called Nolan's Cross, and folks have been able to look at where stones are placed and could look at the sky in history and say just about when they were built. So I think the stars are a more logical answer to the buildings being built.
A lot of them are seeing stars or building according to stars that you couldn't see with the naked eye, though. And that was prior to telescopes or any kinds of lenses, optical lenses. How in the heck did they pull this off? So the stars have a lot to do with this, and nobody really knows. Or I don't. I certainly don't know what the heck's going on with that. But ley lines, back to ley lines. I think ancient ley lines, there was something to it. Modern ley lines or modern structures, I think, are just copycats of maybe some clandestine cults, like maybe the Masons or any of those guys that do a lot of symbolism.
Ooh,
Back in
calling the
the
Masons a
1900s,
cult, you're going to piss somebody off.
a cult is anything that has more than 5 people that believe the same thing. So they're a cult. I'm a cult. I have my own
The
cult.
cult of Ike, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they had, like I said, they have a lot of symbolism, and they probably intentionally built stuff like that to maybe, if there's something out there, appease it. Maybe like, look, we're still doing what we did 2,000 years ago, or maybe just to think it's cool, just like some teenage kid drawing a pentagram with a goat head in the middle of it. Is he really a devil worshiper? Probably not. He's just following something that he's seen on television or.
Movies, yeah. The bottom line is, folks, keep an open mind. We still don't know the answers. Just don't take anything at face value. Research, come up with your opinions based upon the evidence that you find.
Get out into the country. If you live in the city, you probably have no clue what the heck, is going on. Get out into the country. Stick your feet in the dirt. And see what's really going on out there. And I'm not saying this to demean anybody. I mean, some people work in the city and never get out of the city. I feel bad for you. The concrete, you're not getting grounded anywhere near as much as you're supposed to. But that's my thoughts on ley lines. I mean, like I said, the last map I've seen on the internet, they're everywhere. And I'm like, well, if they're everywhere, then it's not really a ley line.
And maybe the answers will get one of those maps that have been created by somebody and maybe do some experiments on that.
Maybe an old school map from Galileo or somebody.
There you go.
That guy had some information that he probably shouldn't have had either back then.
There you go with your conspiracy stuff again.
Well, you've seen some of the stuff that his maps, he's showing the South Pole prior to it even being in existence.
Flying machines he built or he designed.
Yeah, there was something wrong with that guy too. Well, there was a reason. There was a reason he spent the rest of his life in prison. Because he was also the one who said that we're not the center of the universe. That the Earth is not the center of the universe, and it was blasphemy. And they said, "Out of here, dude! Going to prison."
Yep.
And how the hell did he know that? This guy was, once again, he was like Tesla or some of these weird geniuses that have popped up throughout history. Just came up with some pretty smart stuff. Einstein.
Yep.
So, do I believe in ley lines? Now I'm really confused. Thank you, Larry. That was a well thought out, intelligent, articulate class on ley lines. Very well.
Thank you.
You've passed your homework. I'm giving you an A+.
Thank you, teacher.
I wouldn't expect anything less from a famous published author, available March 25th, Larry Lawson.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Would love to hear what you guys think about it too. So let us know.
Yes. So I forgot to tell a story how the supernatural saved my ass in law enforcement, like we've been doing at the beginning of every episode. Because as usual, I'm ill prepared. So I was going to tell you because when it comes to supernatural and paranormal, this is my my number one through number like 3 or 4. Number 1 would be ghosts, spirits, hauntings. Mm. It's probably at the top of my food chain because I've experienced it so many times. Number 2 would be cryptids. I know there's something weird out there in the woods. I've seen it. I felt it. I know there's something strange. Then it would be UFOs. I've seen weird shit in the sky. But ghosts have always been my thing and sparked my interest in the paranormal and the supernatural from day one since I was a little kid. Because there was always something weird going on. Maybe it's just attracted to me. I don't know. But years ago, like about 3 years ago, I've got a manuscript where I was writing a book, and I got, there's probably 180 pages or so now, at least. But one of the stories I talk about is the house I lived in here in New Mexico. And
I would love to. Is this still standing? Is this house still standing?
No.
Yeah, that's right. It burned. Yeah, it's all, duh. I would love to at least go to that spot.
The reason I want to bring it up is because there's several people that listen to this podcast that have also experienced it. That they're friends of mine from high school that have been to this house. 3 of them that I can think of, including my sister. And so I'm just going to, this whole story is pretty long, so I'm just going to pull some little snippets out of it. So this house was in Belen, New Mexico, which is about 30 miles south of Albuquerque. Very rural, very, very small rural town. One blinking orange light. It's back in 1982. And prior to moving to this house, I was still living with my dad and mom, and my current wife, my only wife, was living with me, although we weren't married. Blasphemy. Cohabitation. We should have gone to jail. But anyway, we were all living together. And, we were really poor. I mean, my dad's retired military. Even though he did 32 years in the military, he wasn't very good at saving money. We did a lot of moving around, renting houses. So somehow he comes across this house in Belen, New Mexico. And he says, we're buying this house. And he assigned me and my sister, my girlfriend, to go down there and clear weeds. Because it was summertime and the weeds were really tall. When I say tall, about 6, 7 feet tall. We have these weird tumbleweeds that grow out here. Really green, lush weeds, and they get tall. So we drive down to this house, and this house is beautiful. It's an old adobe house, and it was added on to. So the adobe house had like 3 rooms, and then somebody, don't know exactly when, probably added about 7 rooms to this house. And it was beautifully built with oak floors, cherry wood doors and panels, an indoor greenhouse, had these like arched windows. Really an amazing looking house. It really didn't fit into New Mexico. It looked more like a Mexican villa down in Mexico somewhere. And just great house. You can tell it's been empty for a long time. It was clean but empty. And so the first thing we had to do is clear the weeds. So I drive my pickup down there and I kick my sister out, hand her a machete, and say, start chopping some weeds. Well, me and my girlfriend went to the neighborhood store to pick up some drinks, some Cokes. So we were gone less than 15 minutes and we come back. And my mom had parked her car at the house the day before to let people know somebody's moving in. And it was empty, the car, of course. But when we come back from the store, my sister had locked herself in that car. And I pull up and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? This ain't getting no weeds cut. And she is white as a ghost. She's shaking. She's pointing at that area of the weeds where she was cutting. And she goes, there's a dead person laying over there. I'm like, what? She goes, yeah. She describes it in detail to me. He's like an older guy in his 50s. You know, back then that was pretty old. Older guy in his 50s, bald. He's wearing a white shirt and he's got blue jeans on. He's dead as hell. He's laying right there. Scared the hell out of me. And I'm like, oh shit. So I'm like poking around. I'm looking. I'm like, I don't see anybody. And where he's supposed to be laying, there's nobody there. So I'm thinking somebody's just spying on my sister. I'm thinking it's some pervy guy. So I get in my pickup and start going cross country through those weeds. Just ripping through those weeds, running shit over. There's nobody there. That was the first event at the house that we knew something was wrong. And it just gets progressively worse. I mean, we move into this house. We can't get the electricity turned on because there was something wrong with the fuse panel. And my dad had to wait like 30 days or something for some electrician to come out and certify it or clear it so they can turn electricity on. So we're living in this house like frontiers people. We got kerosene lanterns going. We're cooking on Coleman stoves outside. It's kind of cool. It's kind of like stepping back in history. I didn't mind it at all. To me, it was camping. And to most of it was pretty cool. I mean, my parents weren't too happy about it. But my bedroom was in the old adobe part of the house. And almost like a maze to get to my bedroom. You'd walk into the main door and through all these little other rooms and you end up in my bedroom. And one night, this is the second event that happened in this house. I'm laying on my bed. I'm looking at a magazine. My dad's asleep in the couch in the living room, which is like 5 rooms away, long distance away. My mom's at work. And my mom and my sister and my girlfriend went shopping. And I'm laying on the bed and I'm looking at a magazine. I clearly hear a girl's voice. I don't know what she says, but it's completely audible. It's not something you imagine. It's like a voice right here next to me. It sounded like, hey, like that. It startled me so bad that I immediately jumped out of bed. Because I'm like 17 years old and guess what kind of magazine I'm reading? And I don't want my girlfriend catching me. Because I assumed it was my girlfriend or my sister spying at me, through the windows. Magazine gets thrown down. I jump out of bed. I'm like, what the hell? And I run into the living room. I look at my dad. He's asleep on the couch. I go out the front door. Nobody there. Ain't nobody anywhere. I heard this voice. I mean, this voice was legit. It really happened. I'm like, what the heck? So I wake up my dad, which was always an exciting thing because if there was such thing as PTSD, that dude lived it. Waking him up for his kids was always a challenge because you just barely touch him and he would jump like 3 feet out of bed and scream something and cuss you out for waking him up. He was also a major alcoholic and he was usually drunk at night. But I wake him up and after he calms down, I'm like, hey, have you heard anything weird in this house? And he says something completely off the wall. He says, yeah, only the kids underneath the floor. I'm like, what? What the hell does that mean? He goes, I hear kids crying and screaming and playing underneath the floor. I'm like, oh, dude, you need to lay off the vodka. Because I'm still a little bit skeptical about this whole situation.
Was there a basement?
No basement, as far as we knew.
Yeah, okay.
So more and more things started happening in his house. You'd set something down like a knife, you're cooking dinner or something. We'd have the back door open. We'd have a Coleman stove set up outside, and we'd come inside the kitchen to maybe chop whatever the heck you're chopping. And you'd set your knife down. You go outside, check on the stove, come back inside. Your friggin' knife's gone. And I'd blame my sister. I'm like, hey, what'd you do with the knife? I didn't touch the knife. I'm like, bullshit. I set it right there. The knife would show up in the living room. It's laying on the living room table, 3 rooms away. It happened all the freaking time, constantly. Let me see. I don't want to miss anything here. Dead air. March 25th, people. So the house sat on probably 5 acres, and it had a big barn. Not a barn, like a big auto shop that was attached. Not attached to the house, but on the property. So one day we're out there still, we're burning weeds. It's getting closer to fall. It's like August, September. And all those weeds we had cut down, we piled up, and they were dry now. And it was always a good time to burn weeds and drink some beer. So we pile up these weeds, and my friends are coming over, and we're burning these weeds, and this old Hispanic guy pulls up in the car. And we're like, what the hell does he want? He was like, oh, it's good to see somebody's moved into this house. And we're like, yeah, my dad bought it. Really? And he's just trying to be really nice. And he, in a roundabout way, says, are you guys happy here? Anything weird going on here? And we're like, I didn't want to tell him anything. I'm like, no, not really. He goes, well, there's been 2 families that lived here. And the first family that lived here are the ones, and this is the first family that he was referring to, the ones that added on all this stuff. Prior to that, who knows who lived there. This house was probably from late 1800s, the adobe part. But he says, he tells us the first family that lived here that built all this stuff accidentally ran over their son. He was like 5 or 6 years old. He said mom was backing out of the driveway and killed her son. And they just broke up and separated and moved out and left everything behind. The second family that moved in only lived there for a couple of months. Got a divorce and all kinds of weird shit was happening. The old Mexican guy's just like, nobody seems to be happy in this house, and that's why it's been empty so long. And I remember asking him, how long has it been sitting empty here? And he goes, oh, at least 2-3 years. And that should have been a red flag. Why is this big house?
That's what we call a clue.
Yeah, why is this big house sitting here empty for so many years? Why is nobody moving in? Well, it seems like all the neighborhood people knew why. We didn't. So that was interesting, that we know for sure one person got killed here. Let's see. My sister and my girlfriend, they shared the same bedroom, contrary to popular belief. And they constantly had nightmares. And this is, we didn't know the future, but they always, in the mornings, they'd sit, we'd all sit together, drink our coffee or make breakfast, and they'd compare stories like, I had the weirdest dream last night. I had a dream this house was on fire. And my sister's like, yeah, me too. Always sharing dreams in the mornings and a lot of nightmares, and a lot of them were quite similar. Many times about the house being on fire. And I would just laugh it off because they'd be almost hysterical about it. And I'm like, you guys are stupid. Stop dreaming shit. There's just a ton of other shit that happened in this house. So the closer it got to Christmas, the more activity happened in that house, it seemed like. It picked up. It got colder outside, so maybe it's because you spend more time inside and you just notice it more. We always heard footsteps. That's why I don't laugh about these ghost hunting shows you see on TV, where you hear footsteps and you're like, these fuckers are always hearing footsteps. No, we heard footsteps too. It's real. Footsteps are a real thing. It got so bad with the footsteps in his house that we got so scared. We all camped out. There was probably 3 rooms that were huge. There was nothing in because the house was just too big for us. We didn't have enough stuff to fill it with. So there was like 3 giant rooms. And we all slept on the floor in one of the rooms. And it was me, my girlfriend, Debbie, my sister, Debbie's sister, Debbie's dad, because he was interested in see what was going on there. And I think one of my other friends, maybe. But we all slept on the floor in sleeping bags because we wanted to, see what the hell was going on. What are we all so scared about? And my big giant St. Bernard. So we were laying there, and I wake up in the middle of the night because I hear footsteps. And my St. Bernard's sitting up. He usually sleeps right next to me. He's sitting up, and he's looking off towards the hallway. And his name was Lee. And I'm like, what are you looking at, Lee? And he's like, this death stare in this. So I wake up Debbie's dad, the only real old adult there. I'm like, dude, do you hear this? And he goes, what is that? And I'm like, I don't know, but somebody's walking towards us, and it's getting closer. And we're starting to get like fight or flight going on syndrome. You know, it's where for people that don't understand fight or flight, we're not cops. You have two options. You're going to get up and kick something's ass, or you're going to run like crazy. And there's actually three: fight, flight, or freeze. And we're probably experiencing all three of those. But me and Larry get up in my St. Bernard, and we walk over towards those.
Name was Larry?
Yeah. We get up and we look around the corner, and as soon as you look around the corner, and these footsteps sound like they're 5 feet away. It's not like something up in the attic or in the basement or far away. These footsteps are happening right in front of us. And as soon as we look around the corner, they stop. And this is in the greenhouse portion where it was a gravel floor, so there were really pronounced footsteps, crunch, crunch. And we look at each other, and I could see the fear in his eyes, and I'm sure you could see the fear in my eyes, because there's something walking around right in front of us. And we take 2 steps back around the corner, and the steps turn around and go the other way. It's like they're walking away from us really fast. So we look back around the corner, you can hear crunch, 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 as it goes away. And he was kind of a religious guy, and he's like, I don't want no part of this crap. There's something wrong with this house. I don't want nothing. And it just kept getting worse and worse. And there's a ton of other episodes that happen in this house, but some of the more fascinating ones is, I think this may have been just right between Halloween and Christmas, and it's cold outside now. And since we still didn't have electricity, we depended on the fireplace to keep the house warm. And it had this weird fireplace that shared 4 rooms. So this fireplace sat in the center of if you have 4 squares and you put them together, it sat in the center of that. So this fireplace had 4 windows, and each room had access to it. Big fireplace. So we used that to heat the house. And we're all sitting in the living room portion of the house. And I think Debbie, my girlfriend at the time, and my sister are preparing. Oh, it was around Thanksgiving. They're making Thanksgiving dinner. And my mom's sitting, we had this old rocking chair, this wooden rocking chair, and she was always crocheting or beading or doing something. And we're just sitting there, and since we don't have electricity, it's kind of cool. We're just sitting there talking. And she looks at me and she goes, Ike, my rocking chair is rocking by itself. I'm like, bullshit. And she's rocking back and forth like that. And I'm like, oh, you're making it rock. And she goes, no, I am not making it rock. And I'm like, nah, always the skeptic. I said, put your feet up. How's that rocking chair? Has the rocking legs. I said, put your feet up on those legs. Put your arms up on the rest and don't budge. And I put my hand on the side. And it certainly felt like this chair was rocking. And she goes, I'm not making this rock. You don't see me moving. This chair is rocking by itself. On the fireplace up on the wall, we had a cow skull that was inlaid with turquoise. So, typical northern New Mexico Santa Fe type art. So it's a huge cow skull, and it's completely covered with turquoise rocks. Kind of cool, creepy looking, but cool. That was up on the wall. As she's saying this chair is rocking, and I'm like telling everybody, like, this chair is really rocking, people. There's something going on. This cow skull falls off the wall, comes straight down, hits a big lighter that was laying below it that he used to light the fireplace, explodes the lighter, and turquoise just shoots everywhere. I mean, there's just little rocks of turquoise everywhere. This is all happening like within, a 3-minute window. And we all just look at each other like, yeah, something going on with this house. There's every day something would happen to the point where you like, we need to find an excuse just to move out of this freaking place. As nice as it is, it's just, I can't take it anymore. And we got our wish. Christmas Day, December 25th. I'm sitting in the living room with my dad. My dad wasn't drunk for a change, so we were having a normal conversation. And all the women folk are in the kitchen cooking dinner. And when I say kitchen, I mean outdoors with their freaking Coleman stoves. Freaking white trash. And I got the fireplace going. Everything is copacetic. It's looking good. And I look up at the ceiling, and I see these flames rolling across the ceiling. It was so weird. It looked just like water, almost like a wave, just rolling along the ceiling. And I grabbed the dog's water dish, my St. Bernard's water dish, and tossed it up there, which was useless. And I tell my dad the house is on fire. He looks up, and he's like, oh, shit. And I take him and tell him to get outside. And then I throw my dog outside. And then I run into the kitchen and tell everybody, I'm like, this freaking place is on fire. Get out. So everybody gets out. And we're outside, and it's snowing. And so we all sit down in my truck and my mom's car, and And the place is completely engulfed in like 10 minutes. I mean, it was just insane how fast the whole entire house just was completely engulfed because it was all wood. And it burned completely to the ground. And the firefighters the next day even asked us, like, is there anything ever weird that happened in this house? And we're like, yeah, all the time. And he goes, that was one of the strangest fires they've ever fought. They said some of the firefighters seen apparitions in the flames. Some of the firefighters said they seen flames of weird colors. Now, another thing they said, does your dad have a still in there? I'm like, a still? Yeah, does he make alcohol? I'm like, no. He probably just hasn't thought of it, otherwise he would be. But no, he's not. And he said, well, there was a lot of flames in there that were bright green and bright blue as if there was alcohol burning. And I'm like, no, there was no alcohol in this house. There's no electricity in this house. There was barely any food in this house. We were pretty freaking broke. So there was just a ton of weird. I'm leaving a lot of it out because I don't want to give my book away. But there was so much crap that happened in that house that if you weren't a believer then, if you moved in, you would leave as a believer. You would know there's something out there besides what you think there is. You know, there's something that impacts your life, and it's not mass hysteria. It's not really explainable. Something happened in that house.
Wow.
Pretty strange.
I've heard stories about that house from you. Heard some from your sister. So it's a strange place.
What I really want to do, and I'm too chicken to do it. I've thought about it many times. Is because right after the house burned down, 3 weeks later, that big garage burned down that was on the property, and then it was just a vacant property for many, many years. Mm-hmm. And now when you drive by, there's a single wide mobile home, an old one, sitting on the property, and somebody's living there. Mm-hmm. And I've always been tempted just to, knock on the door and say, "Hey, how's it going? You guys see any ghosts?"
Well, or let's get back to the ley lines. Wouldn't it be great if you could find a map?
Yeah.
And just for the shits and grins, seeing if any of those lines cross that property there.
Yeah. So. Absolutely. So that's my haunted house story. I mean, that's about a third of the activity that's happened in the house. There's just a bunch of other shit that happened in the house.
Yeah, but you don't want to give it all up because the book's coming. The next famous writer. The famous next writer here.
Maybe. I've been sitting on it for so long. Mainly, I there was a time when I was a cop. Anything that was supernatural or unexplainable for me, I wrote down and stashed in my computer because there was so much of it that happened. But then this was old school desktop computers, and then we had a major crash with our computer at the house, and I lost everything.
Lost it.
I lost all those stories. Those pre-flash drives. You could have saved it on a CD probably, but I didn't. But I had so many stories. But I'm glad some of them I wrote down on my work computer. After I do a report, then I do a little extra file, and I'd write down, just a short little narrative of like how strange tonight was.
Yeah.
And I still got a lot of those.
Well, get that published, brother. Get that published.
Yeah. Anywho, this was episode number 11. I think that was a good one. Good job with the ley lines.
Enjoyed it. Thank you. Hope you all enjoyed it. And
I guess it's my job to investigate or look into something for the next episode because I don't want to look like a loser.
Or if folks, you got an idea, send it to Ike.
Yes. Yeah. Well, just add it to the videos on YouTube, just in your comment section. Say, hey, I want you guys to do this or that. We may or we may not do it. We may listen to you. We may not. Who knows?
At any rate.
All right. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you're only listening, remember you can see these things on Spotify. I'm disappointed with Spotify. There's not enough people going there. I may stop uploading to Spotify because it's a pain in the ass to upload to Spotify. But as of right now, you can still listen and watch the show on Spotify also, or you can just go to YouTube.
Well, it's where you're listening to it from. Let us know that too.
If you want to continue, if you're the few Spotify users that actually listen to the show, let us know. Convince me why we should continue doing this on Spotify also. There's other venues out there, but it's very people don't really appreciate how much work goes into making these damn things.
And you do all the work. I mean,
a lot of work goes into making YouTube videos. It's not as simple as just making a video and slapping it on YouTube. It's time consuming and it's a pain in the ass, but we do it because we love you. Yeah. And
anyway,
that's why we do it.
Until next
Anything?
week.
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Goodbye. See you next time.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.